We've all been there, blindsided by hurt, left with the kind of pain that makes your chest heavy and your mind spiral. Maybe it was betrayal. Maybe it was words meant to cut. Maybe it was the slow unraveling of something you thought was unbreakable. And in that moment, you have a choice. You can react exactly how they expect, rage, tears, a storm of emotions, or you can do something different. Pain is an inevitable part of life. It comes in different forms, sometimes as a sharp betrayal, other times as a slow ache of disappointment. It can knock the air out of your lungs, make the world feel smaller, and wrap itself around your thoughts until it feels impossible to escape. And when someone hurts you, someone you trusted, someone you loved, it feels personal, like a wound meant just for you. But here's what we often forget. Pain is real, but so is resilience. Resilience is the quiet strength that sits in your bones even when you feel broken. It's the part of you that refuses to let pain have the final say. It doesn't mean you don't feel the hurt. It doesn't mean you ignore it or pretend it never happened. Resilience is about acknowledging the pain, sitting with it, understanding it, but not becoming it. Because pain is a visitor, not a permanent resident. And it comes, it stays for a while, and then if you let it, it moves on. But resilience is yours to keep. It's built every time you stand back up when you thought you couldn't. Every time you choose growth over bitterness. Every time you decide that what happened to you does not get to define you. The most powerful thing about resilience is that it doesn't always look like strength. Sometimes it looks like taking a deep breath when your chest is tight with grief. Sometimes it's whispering to yourself, I will be okay even when you're not sure you believe it yet. And sometimes it's simply choosing to wake up and face another day when all you want to do is hide. Resilience is in the small moments, the quiet victories, the choices no one sees. And the best part, it grows. So yes, pain is real. It is heavy. It is sometimes unfair, but your ability to heal, to rise, to come out on the other side stronger and wiser, that is just as real, and it is far more powerful. We live in a world that often confuses vulnerability with weakness. We're taught to keep our guard up, to hide our pain, to pretend we're okay even when we're breaking inside. We hear messages like, don't let them see you cry, or stay strong, as if strength means shutting down, as if the bravest thing we can do is pretend we don't feel. But that is a lie. Because the truth is, vulnerability is not weakness. It is courage in its rawest form. To be vulnerable is to stand in the open without armor and say, this is me, this is what I feel, this is what I fear, this is what I hope for. It is choosing to show up in life fully, even when there is no guarantee of how others will respond. It is allowing yourself to be seen, even when it feels terrifying. Weakness is hiding behind walls, pretending you don't care when you do, pushing people away before they have a chance to hurt you, and your spirit taking a breath of freedom and just being calm and letting your honesty explain who you are, what you do. Weakness is numbing yourself so you don't have to feel anything at all. But vulnerability is saying, I'm hurt, but I'm still here. It is saying, I love you without knowing if the other person will say it back. It is admitting, I don't have it all figured out, and trusting that you are still enough. Vulnerability is also the birthplace of connection. Think about it. Have you ever truly bonded with someone over perfection? Have you ever felt close to someone who never opened up, never shared their fears or their dreams? No, because real connection happens in the honest, unfiltered moments. It happens when someone says, me too, I felt that way too. It happens when we let go of the act and allow ourselves to be human together. And yes, Vulnerability comes with risk. When you open up, there's a chance you could be hurt, but there's also a chance you could be loved, understood, and supported in a way you never imagined. And that is worth the risk. So the next time someone tells you vulnerability is weakness, remind yourself, only the strongest people have the courage to be seen for who they truly are. And that kind of strength is unbreakable. We live in a world that often tells us to guard our hearts, to be tough, to keep our emotions under control. From a young age, we are taught that showing feelings, especially the raw, unfiltered kind, makes us weak. We hear things like, don't be too sensitive, never let them see you cry, or stay strong. Strength, as society defines it, is often equated with emotional toughness, detachment, and an unwillingness to let others see the fragile parts of us. But that idea couldn't be more wrong, because the truth is, vulnerability is not weakness. It is one of the greatest signs of strength. Think about it. What takes more courage? Hiding behind a mask of indifference, pretending you don't care, shutting people out, or standing in the middle of your truth, opening yourself up, risking rejection, and still choosing to show up fully? It is the latter. Vulnerability is not for the faint of heart. It requires bravery, self-awareness, and an inner resilience that many never tap into because they are too afraid of what might happen if they allow themselves to be seen. The fear of vulnerability. Why do we resist vulnerability so much? Because it feels dangerous. It feels like standing unarmed in a battlefield with no way to protect yourself if something or someone strikes. Vulnerability requires us to let go of control, to step into uncertainty, and to trust that even if we fall, we will be able to get back up. We fear that if we reveal our true selves, people will judge us. If we express love, we might not receive it in return. If we admit we're struggling, we might be seen as incapable. But here's the irony. The very thing we fear is also the thing that can set us free. Vulnerability is the birthplace of connection. Look back at the most meaningful moments in your life, the moments when you felt truly connected to another person, the moments when you felt seen, understood, and deeply valued. Did those moments happen because you were pretending everything was perfect? Or did they happen when you let down your guard and allowed someone to see the real you? True connection is impossible without vulnerability. We don't bond over perfection. We bond over shared struggles, over deep conversations, over admitting that we don't always have it all figured out. Think about the relationships that have meant the most to you. They weren't built on small talk and surface level interactions. They were built on truth, on the willingness to open up, to be honest, and to let another person into the places we often try to hide. The strength in being seen, when you choose to be vulnerable, you are saying, I am strong enough to let you see me even when I'm not at my best. That takes courage. Because vulnerability isn't just about emotions. It's about stepping into the unknown without a guarantee of how things will turn out. It's about saying, I love you without knowing if the other person will say it back. It's about admitting, I'm struggling when every part of you wants to act like you have it all together. It's about speaking your truth, even when it feels easier to stay silent. Weakness is running from your emotions. Weakness is pretending you don't care when you do. Weakness is hiding behind pride and ego because you're afraid of getting hurt. But vulnerability is strength. It is choosing to be real in a world that constantly tells you to be something. It is allowing yourself to be fully seen, flaws and all, and knowing that your worth is not dependent on anyone else's acceptance, the risk and the reward. Does vulnerability come with risk? Absolutely. When you open up, there's always a chance you could be hurt. Someone might reject you. Someone might take advantage of your openness. Someone might not understand. But what's the alternative? Living behind a wall, never letting anyone in, missing out on deep, meaningful relationships because you were too afraid to take a chance. The most beautiful parts of life exist on the other side of fear. And while vulnerability doesn't guarantee you won't experience pain, it does guarantee that you will experience life fully. It means you won't go through life wondering, what if? Because you will have had the courage to try. Vulnerability is freedom. When you stop seeing vulnerability as a weakness, something shifts inside you. You stop seeking approval and start living authentically. You stop pretending and start connecting. You realize that you are already enough. Without the mask, without the armor, without the fear. So the next time someone tells you to toughen up, to hide your emotions, to keep your heart guarded, remember this. Only the strongest people have the courage to be vulnerable, and that kind of strength changes everything. Revenge. It's a word that carries weight, emotion, and a sense of justice. When someone hurts us, betrays us, or wrongs us in ways we never expected, our first instinct is often to retaliate, to make them feel the same pain they inflicted on us. We think that if we can make them suffer, if we can show them what they lost, if we can prove that we are better off without them, we will somehow feel healed. But here's the truth. Revenge doesn't heal. It keeps you shackled to the very thing that hurt you. We've been taught that getting even will give us closure, but in reality, it only keeps us emotionally invested in someone who doesn't deserve a second more of our time or energy. The real revenge, it's not anger, it's not payback, it's not proving a point. The best revenge is indifference. Why indifference hurts more than retaliation? People who hurt you expect a reaction. They expect anger, sadness, a dramatic confrontation, something that reassures them that they still have an impact on you. They want to believe they are still in your mind, still controlling a part of your emotions. But what happens when you don't react? What happens when you move forward as if they never existed? That's when the power shifts. Indifference is unsettling, it's confusing, it's the loudest silence you can give. It sends a message stronger than any words ever could. You no longer matter to me, and nothing is more painful than realizing you have no hold over someone who once cared about you. Holding on to resentment only hurts you. When someone wrongs you, it's natural to feel hurt, angry, and betrayed. But holding on to those emotions for too long turns into poison. While you're replaying the pain in your head, while you're thinking of ways to make them regret what they did, they're outliving their life. The more you focus on them, the more you keep them relevant in your story, and that's exactly what they don't deserve. Indifference, on the other hand, is liberation. It means they no longer take up space in your mind. It means their actions no longer dictate your... It means you've moved on, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. The power of moving on without a show. We often want our healing to be seen. We want the person who hurt us to notice that we're thriving, to realize that we're doing better without them. But here's the thing, when you're truly indifferent, you don't need them to notice. Indifference is not about pretending not to care. It's about actually not caring. It's about getting to a place where their existence no longer affects yours, where you no longer check their social media, where their name no longer triggers emotion, where you don't need validation from them or anyone else. It's about knowing that your growth, your happiness, and your success were never dependent on their presence in your life. How to achieve true indifference? Indifference isn't something you fake. It's something you cultivate. It takes time, but it's possible with intentional effort. Stop engaging. Don't text, don't stalk, don't subtweet, don't entertain conversations about them. The less energy you give them, the faster they fade from your mind. Redirect your focus. Pour your time and energy into things that make you better. Your career, your passions, your personal growth. Heal for yourself, not for a performance. Your healing doesn't need an audience. Let go because it benefits you, not because you want to make a statement. Accept what happened, but don't let it define you. The past is a chapter, not the whole book. Close it, turn the page, and move forward. Embrace peace over pettiness. Winning isn't about proving anything. It's about reaching a place where their presence or absence doesn't impact your peace. We all carry stories within us. Some we tell the world with pride, stories of success, love, and triumph. Others we bury deep, hoping no one ever finds them, the stories of pain, betrayal, and failure. But what if I told you that the most important story of all is not the one you've been given, but the one you choose to rewrite? Life has a way of handing us narratives we never asked for. Maybe someone hurt you in a way that changed the course of your life. Maybe you were made to feel like you weren't enough. Maybe you were abandoned, overlooked, or told that your dreams were too big, your voice too loud, your presence too much. Maybe you started believing that the pain, the disappointment, the rejection, that was the story of you. But here's the truth. You are not bound by the story others have written for you. At any moment, you have the power to pick up the pen, turn the page, and start again. Your past is a chapter, not the whole book. Many of us make the mistake of believing that what happened to us is who we are. We replay the past in our minds over and over, as if keeping it alive will somehow change it. We label ourselves based on our lowest moments. I am broken, I am unlovable, I am a failure. But those are just stories we've been telling ourselves, and stories can be rewritten. Think about the books, the movies, the great stories that inspire us. They all have moments of struggle, heartbreak, and loss. But what makes them powerful is that the character refuses to stay stuck in that moment. They rise, they learn, they change, and so can you. Your past may have shaped you, but it does not define you. The pain you have endured is real, but so is your ability to transform it into something greater. The story is still unfolding, and you are still the author. Taking back the pen. So how do you rewrite your story when everything in you still feels tied to the past? You start with one simple truth. You get to decide what happens next. No, you can't erase the past, but you can choose how it affects the rest of your life. You can stop carrying the weight of other people's mistakes. You can refuse to let someone else's betrayal, abandonment, or cruelty become the defining plot of your life. Here's how you begin rewriting your story. Challenge the narrative you've been told. Who told you that you weren't enough? Who convinced you that you had to settle for less than you deserve? Was it a person, a moment, a failure that made you feel like you'd never get back up? Now ask yourself, is that story true, or is it just something you've been taught to believe? Change the way you speak to yourself. Words are powerful, especially the ones we tell ourselves. Instead of saying, I will never heal from this, say, I am learning to heal. Instead of, I am too broken to love, say, I am growing and I deserve love. The way you talk to yourself becomes the script of your life. Rewrite it. Forgive not for them, but for you. Holding on to pain keeps you stuck in an old chapter. Forgiveness is not about excusing what happened. It's about freeing yourself from the weight of it. It's about saying, this will not control my future. Decide what kind of person you want to become. If you could design the next chapter of your life, what would it look like? What kind of person do you want to be? How do you want to show up in the world? Now start making choices that align with that version of yourself. Let go of the need for validation. You don't need anyone's permission to move on. You don't need the apology you never got. You don't need the people who hurt you to suddenly understand your worth. Your story is yours, and you don't need their approval to rewrite it. The power of rewriting your story. When you decide to rewrite your story, something incredible happens. You reclaim your power. You step out of the role of the victim and into the role of the creator. You stop waiting for someone else to make things right, and you start making things right for yourself. Rewriting your story doesn't mean pretending the pain never happened. It means choosing to use it instead of being used by it. It means deciding that the past will not be the thing that holds you back, but the thing that propels you forward. It means that no matter how dark the last chapter was, the next one can be filled with light. Your story is still being written. You have survived things you never thought you would. When you have walked through fire and made it to the other side, you are still here. That alone is proof that your story is not over. At some point in life, we all face pain, betrayal, and moments that threaten to define us. But the true test is not in what happens to us, it's in how we respond. The past may have written the opening chapters, but the power to write the rest of the story is in your hands. Revenge won't heal you. Anger won't free you. Carrying the weight of someone else's actions will only keep you trapped in the very pain you're trying to escape. The real victory is choosing indifference, choosing to move forward without seeking validation, without proving anything, without allowing what happened to dictate your future. And above all, the greatest act of power is rewriting your story. You are not your past. You are not what someone did to you. You are not the pain, the rejection, or the moments that broke you. You are the survivor, the one who rises, the one who decides that their life is still worth living fully, freely, and on their own terms. So pick up the pen, walk away from what no longer serves you. Choose healing over resentment. Choose peace over revenge. Choose a story that reflects the strength, resilience, and unstoppable force that you are.